main opposition, People's Democratic Party, today held its 75th Board of Trustees meeting. Well, there was a long list of resolutions that came out of that meeting, but top on the list, as you would expect, is a reaction to the outcome of the Presidential Election Petition Court. And the board says that it is confident that the Supreme Court will upturn the judgment of the Election Petition Court. But that's not all. The board also said that it is monitoring the outcome of cases in various election courts with regards to their level of adherence to the rule of law and evidence which was laid before the court. Now, for context, I just spoke with a lawmaker from Plateau State. In that state alone, 4 PDP lawmakers, their elections were upturned by the tribunal. And we have a lawmaker representing Barikin Ladi, Riom Federal Constituency, my guest earlier on, the lawmaker representing Langtang North and Langtang South, that's Honorable Benila, Napoleon Balio as well, who represents Plateau South Senatorial District. And the fourth man is our guest on the program tonight, Honorable Dachung Bagos, joins us live in our Abuja studio. You're welcome.
Thank you, Kaidi.
It looks like it's turning out to be a plateau affair, even though we discussed the boundary situation with Honorable Benila earlier on. But just before we get into the BOT meeting and the outcome, what's playing out in Plateau State, I'd like to get your reactions to some of the recommendations from that conference on ending, farmer herders conflict and boosting the livestock economy. And one of the recommendations was that there should be a ministry of livestock, and essentially to fix that whole fracas between farmers, herders, to boost the livestock economy as well. I wonder how you receive it, because communities in Plateau State in your constituency have also been at the receiving end. Do you think this will solve the situation?
Absolutely no, because the issues of farmers, herders, relationship, because I wouldn't say conflict, because on the plateau we don't have such conflict. We don't have anything that's called clash, but people have been killed in the farms on daily basis. On 2-3 different reasons. Number one, from the National Assembly, we've been talking about cutting cost of governance, and even the current president have talked of cutting costs of governance. Which is recent cutting down of delegation to hunger and looking at areas that the president will look at cutting cost of governance. But in reality, on the impact, if creating the Ministry of Livestock, at what point and for who? Because what beneficial will it be for us on the plateau that we are agrarian? So if you're going to have a Ministry of Livestock, which means you should be able to have a Ministry of Farmers or Ministry of Root Crops or something to be able to benefit us, because we are agrarians, we are farmers. Now, so what really bothers us is that, look, with the vast land, with the fertile land we have, I should be able to give us what we want. And by the way, from the Ministry of Agri and other agencies, it has been able to address how it will be able to give livestock businesses or whatsoever to a lot of agencies under the Ministry of Agri. At the same time, under the ministry, under the same ministry, there are root crop agencies that have been able to address the issue. So, looking at those policies and agencies under, be able to see how you address these issues, not creating another ministry that will increase the cost of governance. To me, let government look at the real issue, not creating a ministry that will add burden for just, so let's really look at the real issue. But creating the Ministry of Livestock, the opinion is it will definitely not address the issue, because if you create the Ministry of Livestock, what will it give? Is it the Ministry of Livestock? Is it about establishing ranches again, which is still under the Ministry of Agri? Or is it about enforcement, or what? These are issues. You have rural development agencies. So these are a lot of, the Ministry of Agri can handle a lot of issues, but creating the Ministry of Agri again, I don't think it will handle these issues as it's supposed to be, because when you address these issues adequately, go to the right, who are those people killing our people on a daily basis in our farms, arrest them, give justice to those that are being killed, get these things, and I can tell you that these things will be silent. But I have always said that I have not yet seen where most of our people that are being killed in the farms have gotten justice. So is it the Ministry of Livestock that will give them justice? But knowing the president with his desire to cut the cost of governance, he will look at this recommendation very well. But if it scaled through, well, we will come with our recommendation for the Ministry of Farmers and Root Crops.
Quite interesting. We'll still, of course, go deep into those recommendations much later during the course of the week and, of course, have a well-rounded debate. But let's talk about, you know, the PDP. The BOT had that meeting, and as you would expect, a major part of the outcome was reaction to the presidential election petition court, the other tribunals. And by the way, we'll still have more judgments in the coming days, but particularly for Plateau State. I've seen your response, by the way, to that judgment. You began with a scriptural reference, and I mean, politicians tend to do that understandably. But what's your reaction, really, to that judgment?
Yeah, well, my reaction is that I'm so worried that with those kind of judgments that came upon the PDP on the plateau, it clearly shows that what we are suffering in terms of good governance, the judiciary really needs to sit down and look at and address judges in dispensing justice. It will be one of my recommendations henceforth that before judges go for tribunal, the chief judge needs to have a conference or a retreat for these judges to be able to know this is the law. Because when we make the law and judges interpret the law differently, it brings a misunderstanding that it becomes an academic exercise that at the end of the day, the appeal and Supreme Court now reverse whatsoever judgment that the tribunal has done. Look at our leader in Didu Elimilu's case today, that the appeal court has uptold it. Look at the governor of Osun State, that appeal court, a lot of cases that during tribunal, that whatsoever interpretation that the judges might have feel they are having, and at the end of the day, the appeal court corrects it. But before then, the integrity of the judiciary is very key. So it's something that is so worrisome that I expect, and I believe that the chief judge and the president of the Court of Appeal and senior and even the NJC should be able to bring judges together for a proper retreat. This is what we want to see. Apart from the NBA conference, I've not yet seen any retreat for judges to be able to understand the law as it's been established by the National Assembly, which is very key.
You were part of making the Electoral Act, which was really celebrated. Absolutely. You were in the House making, and it's a very interesting conversation here because the lawmakers, as the name implies, are meant to make the laws.
Yeah.
The courts interpret the law. So are you saying that the intendment of the law, which was made by you and your colleagues, was not brought to fruition in the interpretation given by the judges?
Exactly, because we were clearly stated in terms of pre-election matters that you don't have any business that have to do with any of this. The section is there in the Electoral Act.
Speak to your own particular case.
Yeah, and okay, for my own particular case, why was the election upturned after we are having 95,000 votes against 31,000 and 21,000 votes? That the election was uptold that PDP does not have structure in the state. And again, it will interest you to know that we have there are two panels of the election tribunal in Plateau State. In the same building, but two different rooms, you have panel 1 and panel 2. Panel 2 gave judgment, dispensed judgment last week to our senator and 2 House of Reps members that look. The basis at which the APC brought its petition is baseless because the Electoral Act clearly states that they are not party members, so it's interloper, just like it was dispensed in the case of the presidential election. So it did not listen to it, dismissed their own petition. In the next room, where you have panel 1, now came and said that the APC and the Labour Party that brought petition on the issue of party inter-party matters, that they have a ground that PDP does not have judgment, they do not have structure. So it now keeps to, wants to worry that two different panel in the same state, in the same roof, different rooms, giving contradictory judgment.
But were they considering the same cases or
the same cases? The same cases. They all have the same issue on ground one. That's what. So the same case, the same issue, that PDP does not have structure on the plateau. But panel two gave out that look, PDP has structure, and it dismisses the petition. Panel one is now saying that PDP does not have structure, so it upheld our elections in the issue of pre-election matters. These are issues that, and one interesting thing that which the judges, especially on our own panel, is that the last and the final saying, and which the Supreme Court even gave judgment in terms of Adakene versus Adamu, in terms of INEC. INEC is the final judge in terms of any dispute within a party. And clearly, INEC issued out its exhibit, and it's part of our exhibit in this very tribunal exhibit F and G, that look, INEC testified that they monitored the congresses of PDP on the plateau, and they tendered that as an exhibit to the tribunal, that PDP had structures, CPD had structure, we monitored their congresses. So the Supreme Court, again, in the case of Adakene and Adamu, says that INEC is the final say in any dispute that have to do with party matters. Right. And here, INEC has testified that they monitored the congresses of PDP. And again, we were even taking furthermore, they took us to court again, and court dispensed judgment down to appeal court 11th of February this year, that PDP has. So all these facts are there. So we are wondering where they got that.
Two different things. That INEC monitored primaries.
Yes.
And I mean, INEC can only do as much. Monitor the primary and then, well, get the results and move on. Is that a verdict on whether or not the PDP has structure?
No, even before then, you understand what I said. That what the party structure that the APC or the petitioners are talking about across board is that PDP does not have structure, which means that we did not conduct congresses. When the court gave that disband our executive, that we should go and reconduct our own congresses, which we did. And in doing that, we did that September 25th, 2021. In doing that, we invited INEC. INEC monitored our congresses September 25th, 2021. So INEC have those records that look, PDP in Plateau State carried out congresses.
Were they carried out according to law?
Exactly, according to law. So now they are now using that because of the judgment of SP Gang, which says that we should go and repeat our congresses, that we do not have Congress, we do not have an executive in the state. But we did a repeated Congress on the 25th of September 2021, which was monitored by INEC. And INEC, which is a third respondent in this matter, in the tribunal, gave out clearly its exhibit that, look, PDP conducted its congresses, we monitored it, and this is our report. So we are aware now, this was what INEC presented in panel 1 and 2. So we don't know where the other panel upheld that, look, that is the PDP has Congress. Even at that, in the issue of interloper, it clearly says that they don't have any business to do with our own judgment. So these are issues that one get confused that where did they get the law to be able to dampen into our own cases? But again,
so the courts, Honorable, you can land on that point, by the way, quickly, before I bring that on.
But again, what was the election tribunal sent? Was it sent as to look into issues of election or to look into issues of pre-election, which the Electoral Act 2022 has addressed?
So, I mean, it's a very tricky situation, and I'm not speaking particularly about the merit or otherwise of your case. I am talking about the reactions that have met the judgment of the court. I mean, we see the court as independent. The court is a last hope of the common man, they say.
Exactly.
And the judgments of the court are meant to be, to a large extent, undisputable. Well, they can be escalated. That's why you have courts to try to higher courts. But when you have courts, they look at the evidence before them.
Exactly.
That's what courts do, essentially. They look at the law. The judges look at the law. They get the representation from the counsels, the petitioner, the respondent, and they put all of that together and make a decision. But we're getting to a point now that judgments come out, and those judgments are not received as you'd expect judgments to be received. You have people stop short of saying, well, the judiciary is corrupt and all of that. Don't you think we're getting to a dangerous point? If we're a nation that should be built on the law, don't you think this is quite dangerous
I think what is happening has opened us up to understand more that in the Electoral Act, we need to start putting how either in the Electoral Act or whatsoever law that needs to be amended, that at the end of the day, if a judge during tribunal gives a contrary judgment that the appeal court uphold or the Supreme Court now reaffirm, there should be consequences for those judges. There should be consequences for those. So until we start doing that, judges will be very careful in studying every and any judgment. Because, look, these are elections that people have agreed with you. There is this social contract between you and I, and that was why you gave me the overwhelming vote. You understood my agenda, but the court now said that, look, the agenda does not go. The court will now give you a different person. So when after 4 years, the court, the person that the court has given you, which you did not elect, after 4 years, the person did not deliver the dividend, because definitely that is where the good governance issue comes. So the judiciary needs to understand, come together with the understanding the laws that is being established by the National Assembly. Because after all this, my review, and in going forward, because I always want to provide solution in every challenge.
Right.
My review in going forward is that the judiciary, the NJC, and so they should be able to look at the sanctions that should be given on cases that Supreme Court affirm, Appeal Court affirm, that is being given by either the High Court or whatsoever, which was wrongly interpreted.
Let me bring in this one, because it's quite interesting. The judiciary gets the flag, and most times the judiciary will never speak for itself. You don't get the judges speak and say, this is what happened. Have you politicians looked inwards? I remember the Chief Justice saying that the Nigerian political class is the most litigious. Politicians go to court for literally everything. So do you look inwards and say, well, if we had not tried to, get this by other means, just focus on elections and let elections decide, we will not have this case in our hands. So are you looking inwards and redressing that from inside before you then say the judiciary is not doing things right?
You see, the judiciary, and that's why they say that it is the hope for a common man. And that's the last statement. And in dispensing judgment, and you see where the judge, even in whatever that, it closes his eyes. The hope for the common man, which means there will be dispute anywhere and everywhere. Just like you are celebrating your 35th or 50 years marriage with your wife, it doesn't mean that there were no dispute. So at the end of the day, whatsoever happens, the judiciary will look at it adequately. So mine is the chief judge and the leaders of the judiciary should be able to really conscientize judges in dispensing judgment. Because the good governance that we are talking about, Kayode, it's not just about you and I, it's about getting the right people in office. But if the judiciary end up getting the wrong person in office, I can tell you the good governance will not come at the end of the day.
Honorable, you still circumventing my questions. Would we have a case when politicians will not go to court, burden the courts with literally everything? But we're talking
well, Will we have that case? It's not possible, because politics is all about interest. So if your interest does not go with what it's out there, definitely people will go to court. And that's why I say that the court is the hope for the common man. At the end of the day, whatsoever dispute that it is within politicians, the court should be able to spade and say it, they say the truth according to the law.
I do hope we put our money where our mouth is, so we don't keep going round this cycle. Have you appealed, by the way?
Absolutely, absolutely. I have appealed.
So what if it doesn't go the way you want?
Oh, well, if it doesn't go the way we want, which means we need to look at the laws again. And we need to be
just
able
because
to look
it didn't go your way.
Not that it didn't go my way, because in amending the Electoral Act, we look at issues that have contravened a lot of victories.
Right.
So if it did not go, which means a lot of things need still to be looked into: credibility, integrity, morality. At the end of the day, needs to come. Your conscience as a judge, your conscience, even as a politician, needs to come into play to see that at the end of the day, we get the law right.
Finally, you put the politicians in it. But I'd like to thank you so much, Honorable Dachung Bagos, for speaking to us on the program tonight, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you.